Hello, I'm here to tell you about our project for Tosticentros. So Tosticentros is essentially a restaurant concept created by Tostitos in Mexico, in which they take a bag of Tostitos products, add associated ingredients, and hand it back to you in exchange for obviously money and so on. So here we have invited the owners to a system which unifies all of Tosticentros locations into one system. So they would start by entering their email address, create a password, and this essentially creates an account for them. First thing they have to do is set up and accept their terms and conditions. And what we're looking at right now is a web design prototype. Nothing's been built or completed in the build process yet. We're still working on all that. But this kind of gives everyone an understanding of where we're going with the software. So first step, or in this step 2 of their business, is entering their business information. So we want them to enter all of the information associated with their Tosticentros, so that way we can know them in the system. We're asking for things like their phone number, if people are called, if they have their own website, if they have their own Twitter or social media, where they're located. After that, we ask them what sort of Tosticentros types they are. There are 3 types of Tosticentros. One is a physical location. The other is a mobile, something such as a food cart, and then or a food truck. After that, they're able to enter their hours. So the last step for them is to say, okay, obviously this is not all in Spanish. So in our case, this is all going to be translated over to Spanish, but for design purposes, some of this is in English as well. So they'd be able to set up the day of the week so that they're open. So in this case, they're closed on the weekends, open on the weekdays. They can set the time in which they're open to the time that they're closed. They can tell the users whether they're open for certain holidays or not. And they can add additional messages like, I'm closed the entire week of Christmas instead of just, 2 days. So once they're finished with that, we let the owners know that they've made it into the system. We welcome them and tell them that the first step is to build a menu. They have 2 ways of building a menu. They can just build it from scratch, or they can start with looking at recipes that PepsiCo has provided them. In this case, let's start with build my menu. So first step, we have no menu items. Go to the first item. There are 2 types of menu items for Tosticentros. There's specials, and there's also ingredients. So in this case, a special would be a menu item in which, it's this flavor of chips, these ingredients are added within it, and this is how much it costs. You can also add ingredients to them. So if you wanted avocado on top of a normal menu item, you could add that for an additional fee. So this is what it looks like when those users are adding their menu items. So they give it a name, they tell it how much it costs, give it a description, and the next step, they start entering in their ingredients. So there's a lot of things that we're doing with these ingredients right off the bat. So if the user starts typing in something like queso, we have an ingredient database library that is auto-populated. So it's going to bring up the different kind of quesos that they could choose from. They choose, in this case, a certain type of queso. It gets added within ingredients. So every time that they add an ingredient item here, it shows here, and you can delete them if you want. And then we ask them for how much the unit amount is that they serve in this one menu item. So they specify that unit amount. When they add that, they can say that I'm finished. And it starts to populate their menu. So in this case, they would see the name, the cost, the description, see how many ingredients it had. They can edit it at any time. So they can edit a name. They can move it up or down based on how they want to list their menu. They can duplicate it or delete it. So and we talked earlier about there's 2 types that they can enter. They can enter specialties or ingredients. Ingredients are a little bit different, in which you list all the type of ingredients for associated costs. So these are ingredients that cost 15 pesos. These are ingredients that cost 25 pesos, and so on. We've also included a tool for recipes. So if the user is coming to recipes and they want to start building a menu that way, they can look at some example recipes that we have for them. They can come to a specific recipe, look at the ingredients, look at the directions, and say, oh, I'm going to add that to my menu. So, and then lastly, the next step for them is once they have, once they have their menus associated, once they have things in the system, the next step for them is to start updating their sales. So if they go into a particular day and they have sales, they can go to the system and add them. Now, a lot of these locations don't have internet connection. A lot of them might have internet connection at home. They might have it on a phone. but they're not even using things like POS systems. They're just taking cash. So we thought that it'd be helpful to have a system built for them so that way they could take what they're normally doing right now, which is just paper, and they're marking down their total sales, and then translate that into a system for them so they can see how much money that they're spending versus how much money they're making. So in this case, we've got a simple screen in which they can go in daily, change the date here, and just tell us how many quantities of each item that they've sold. So they can do this at the cart as it happens. We have designed a simple mobile interface, a kind of an accompaniment app to go with this on their Android device, in which they can do this live, as these sales are happening, or they can just simply just come back at the end of the day and update all of this and hit save. So what this does for them is it gives them information within a dashboard. So a dashboard comes in and will show them things like their top selling items. So these are all top selling items for that location within the month of March. And it shows them things like their margins, the total sold, shows them how much sales they've done, how much profit they've got. We can break it down between the month or the year. And then because they entered ingredient items, we can also give them ingredient information. So in this case, we're showing them what percentage of their ingredients are based in these independent categories. They can also drill into a category. So in this case, vegetables. We're seeing that they've spent in March, how many pesos they've spent on avocado versus jalapeno, things like that. And then lastly, we're giving them trending ingredients. So since we have information from all of Tosticentros, it might be interesting for these owners to know that some ingredients are taking off and others are going away. So in this case, we've got things like pineapple is up 7% from last month, and these items over here are down. So it might just give the user a little bit of input on what's popular and what's not out there. The user can go in and edit their profile at any time. So that's the profile is the information that they entered when they went into the system the very first time. So it's basically their information, their hours, their password. They can edit all of that. So we've gone through dashboard, menu, ingredients, recipes. There's just a couple of last things. So resources are items that PepsiCo is providing to these owners, like training videos, also downloads. So logo files, they could be menu files, could be posters, things like that that they might hang up at their location. And then any sort of promotions or rewards will be entered as well. So a promotion might look like something that's being on sale over at PepsiCo, or something that they're offering their owners that they're not offering to anyone else. Obviously, this is just a mock-up right now. We don't have any promotions that they've specifically put in, but we're putting placeholders for this for kind of a headline, call to action, and maybe an image from there. Same thing with rewards. So rewards would have just a simple, call to action and take them to the reward site for Pepsi. So that is a quick walkthrough for the Tosticentro Owner area. Thank you for your time.